There's a lot too
Yeah.
to making this
Okay.
work.
Okay. Now let's start all over since I'm doing 50 million thousand things at one time tonight. I'm actually running two shows at the same time. What you're seeing is the Hangouts on air, like you always do. Uh, we have the panel, I have the Q&A up and running, so I can see that on my end. I'm also running the YouTube live stream because that is what you're going to be watching after September the 12th. Because Hangouts on air and Google Plus is going away. They'll no longer be giving that out or having it running. They're going to shut it down. So everything goes to YouTube Live. Tonight's show I put in the post. The very top link was the link for the YouTube Live. You can go to that link, be able to watch the show. There is a chat box there where you can chat just like you do in the Q&A here. We're just trying this out, make sure we're getting everything to work right, and letting you guys have the best of two worlds, really, for at least one more week. Then Google's going to say bye-bye, and it's all going to be on YouTube Live. So bear with us. Like I said, I'm trying to shuffle a lot of stuff here on my end just to run these two shows at one time. Randy, I need you to mute your mic, please. And Andy's been good enough to watch the YouTube chat over there. Let me know if anybody's over asking questions and all. So tonight's a little different. So let's kind of get this thing started. We got, let's see who we got on the panel here. We got Shane, Mr. N. Scaler. Hey, Mr. Ron Perry. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
That's good. Good to see you. Appreciate you coming in here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I need a little entertainment, huh? See how bad I screw myself up.
Or it could be me. I don't know.
I got Mr. Randy over on the West Coast. Got Jason in here. Appreciate you coming in. Mr. Dave. We're going to call him double shift for a while because that's what he's doing, is working double shifts. And Andy, my IT guru. Appreciate the help, Andy.
Well, that's what we do. We all help each other. We all end up better off for it.
Yeah, Phil Wyman, he won't be in tonight because he's gone down to Florida to take care of his mother, so he'll be down there for a little while. So won't see him. He just got married too. Just get married and have to go to Florida and get his mother. All right, anybody got anything tonight? Shane, I think you had some good news. You were jumping up and down just before the show.
Yeah, I've got it. I don't know if anybody had that screen shared still. We were just looking at moments before we started this. Microtrains just announced a brand new line of in-scale couplers that are coming out, and they are about the closest thing to actual scale. There it is. Andy's got it over there if you present Andy, but they look exactly like knuckle couplers, and they've got the train line air hoses, and there you can see a comparison picture between the microtrains and the actual the brand new knuckle couplers, but they look so real. And I actually had that sent to me from one of my local in-scale buddies here in Kansas City, and I was just losing it. I can't imagine putting those on the front of a locomotive. Those are going to look stunning. So those should be brought to market, or at least announced here in the next few weeks, but those were sneak previewed by the head of product over there at Microtrains just now.
I'm curious if the operation is going to be mirror more as I look at these, if it's going to be more in line with mirroring the... so I have this tough balance. KDs work really well. They make your life really easy. Surgeon engineering, like I use on HO scale, they're wonderful. I absolutely love them. But they don't make your life easy. They look great. This looks like it's a really nice balance between easy enough to operate and function, yet still semi-prototypical. And I mean, those look great. So I think it's
Andy,
close, KD.
Andy, there's people are mentioning that you're getting echoes on your end.
Yeah, I'm curious if that's just me or if that's everybody from the Hangout because of the complex audio that we had to do to pipe the Hangout around. So if anybody would let us know if it's just me or if it's everybody. If it's just me, then I'll quit repeating myself.
Well, here, I'll go ahead and mute myself here because you're sounding fine to me, Andy, coming across on Google, but I'll go over to YouTube and listen over there.
Yeah, and I've got it open. I could do that.
Yeah, because I was muted here, so.
But it's part of the complexity, and I'm worried about it in OBS if the two streams, the stream at the bottom and the audio capture, audio input capture, where you have those two inputs. I was concerned about that capturing the audio twice, slightly out of phase, which would cause an echo. So.
In my experience, there are two issues that happen. Either there's you're not using headphones and the speakers are drowning into the mic, or you have two tabs open where there's two streams running at the same time, lagged out.
Yeah, both of those happen to me because I use a headset some, but I just don't love using the headset. And if I always have just a few tabs open across the top of my screen, it's not uncommon for me to have a few. So, but there's, I don't know, 40 or 30.
All right, so I should be able to go to my headphones, and everybody should still be able to hear me and everybody on the panel then, right? Because, we got this wired up now?
Yep, because we're passing the audio through, and yes, Turner Gary says that it is every, and I was getting ready to listen to it too, so it does, what I would say is that in OBS, where you have that section at the bottom, one of those the auxiliary or desktop audio needs to be muted so that we can only use the audio capture. Because right now, remember where I showed you it has that two sections, you're capturing the audio from the Hangout twice. So,
Okay, so I just muted the microphone auxiliary.
Well, I don't know if it's there. Yeah, okay.
It's one or the other.
Yeah, the only other one I have is desktop audio.
Yeah.
I think desktop audio would be the culprit because OBS is hooked right into your mic. So if you're displaying anything, when you ran your video intro, you needed your desktop audio. But now that it's done, you don't need it no more.
All right, well, let's see if anybody's saying we got an echo still. Well.
And it's harder for me to listen because I can't mute this, but it does seem like it has improved. But we'll get some feedback from people.
Trainer guy says echo has stopped.
Yep, that's what I figured it was. Good deal. Show can go on.
Yeah, well. Oh, Mr. Ron.
Yes, sir.
Didn't mean to catch you right in the middle of a drink there, but.
I got all kinds in the fridge. Don't worry about it.
Now you just need to get John to speak up a little bit on the YouTube side of it, because it sounds like he's muted.
All right, hang on.
Just wait, my audio just fell out of the computer.
Sounds like I'm muted on the YouTube side. All right, well, how am I going to boost that up?
Sorry about that.
You get control of your audio, so if you bring the audio down from your microphone, or bring the audio up for your microphone, or bring everybody else's down.
I pulled my audio plug out. Sorry about that. Had to do with the beer, I'm sure of it.
All right, I'm over here on OBS, and I've got the desktop audio working.
You have it muted? You've got it working, right? And
desktop audio is the one that's active right now. Mic auxiliary is muted.
Okay, so if yours is not loud enough, then bring ours down a little bit. Then anybody can turn their speakers up a little bit to compensate, and yours will be louder.
I just lowered the desktop audio to see what happens. I'm leaving the mic auxiliary still muted, though.
I pulled my headphones out as you were asking me the question there. I missed it.
Yeah, we got off on the audio here.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to look. I noticed you just did a post on Craftsman kits. I know you was working on one.
Yeah, I've been working on one since the spring.
Yeah, oh shoot, there's one. I think you had the dirt road right in front of it. You were working on it as a diorama.
Yeah.
I think tonight you added that to the layout or something.
I don't have a layout per se. I have a bunch of dioramas that one day I'm gonna combine into a layout, and it's Sierra West scale models shipyard
There
at
you go.
Foss Landing, and it's an expensive kit, but it's a learning kit, and I'm having a ton of fun building it.
It's like, I mean, you gave one of the best explanations of Craftsman kits I've ever heard. That it is a lecture or an education course on scratch building in a box, as opposed to treating it as a kit. That was the best sales pitch I've ever heard for the justification of a $300 plus kit.
Well, you know, there's some kits they come with a few detail parts, like maybe 5 or 10 detail parts, and this comes with about 60 detail parts, and I'm talking little wrenches and all kinds of doodads that you never have. You always have to scratch build this stuff, and
Yep.
you know, these learning kits force you to either throw them out, throw them on the bench, or put them on the model, and you know, all that stuff works.
Well, like fine scale miniatures, I mean, you could get on eBay, look at the cost of people just selling the instruction manuals. That's the value. That's how valuable that manual is. When people are selling just the instruction book for 50, 60, 70 bucks.
I've done that a number of times.
I mean, they're incredible. I mean, they teach you, and he's what, of course, George Selios is, you know, kind of an icon in the industry, and a few other people like him, but his books will teach you how to pave the roads coming up to the building, how to weather, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's far exceeding just structure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One kit, actually, I just would like to elaborate on that. Another kit builder that's a learning kit, in my opinion, is South River Model Works, and that guy is an art teacher, and he also gives you a wire-bound book that's like 100 pages with 100 pictures in it, but he gives you color tips in there that are like, he's an art teacher, so he really is insightful in the way that he explains things, and they're an amazing learning experience. After you build a kit like that, you can do it yourself in terms of scratch building.
And I like those kits too. The South River Model Works are more in line with my more industrialized kind of structures. That fine scale miniatures are incredible. There's no doubt about it. But they tend to fit a niche that George likes, and of course, you know, he does what he likes. But that's why I've kind of paid more attention to South River for that reason.
Like George Selios is like the big city industries and dirty 1930s stuff, whereas South River does the small company town builds, you know, where you have the big factory, the wool factory, or the this and that factory, and they're awesome.
Warehouses are what I've been looking at. He's got wood that, you know, it's a couple $100. You know, it's not as expensive as an FSM kit even, but he's got wood warehouse, but it's a large structure, which I've constantly said that we've taken selective compression over a cliff in this hobby, and we way over compress everything, and those kits they're good sized kits. You put the money in, but you're getting exceptional quality, but even in quantity, you're getting a really good size structure.
Yeah, you're getting your money's worth out of it, number one. And the other thing is you don't have to buy all these Craftsman kits to learn it. You find the one that fits your layout and use that as your learning kit, and you can take all those lessons into your other projects, you know. And in most cases, you can take a third of the detail parts, not put them in your diorama, and put them on other parts of your model railroad, you know. So it's a really, it's not just $300. It is like a number of builds this kit's going to be a part of.
Well, the good thing is that there's a full gamut of kits that used to, it was kind of, you were in the lower end of the spectrum or you were in the higher end, and there wasn't a lot of middle ground. But a cottage industry that has came up around model railroading since people can buy laser cutters and 3D printers and mold making equipment so economically. You're seeing so many people who are making $50 kits at 100, 152. This whole range of kits and there's a lot of people who are in the middle of it, like bar mills. Those are good kits with a lot of parts and they're fairly economical. The instructions are the absolute single biggest sacrifice, though.
And one of the private, I've been following who has the detail parts over the years, and in the past, it was the name was there, and it just slipped away. But it was this gentleman who had made all these detail parts, and he sold his stuff to Best Trains, and Best Trains just sold to Motrac Models. So Motrac they have an exceptional line of detail parts, and he is just bringing, he just bought this company about a month ago, and he's bringing it home. But soon Motrac's gonna have the line of detail parts, metal metal cast, white metal detail parts, and he's got quite the collection that he just purchased. I have a bunch of those.
And he's going to keep that whole collection active, because I seen that either press release or something about that too. So his plan, I guess, if you've paid attention to that stuff, is his plan to keep that entire line active? Because that's...
I don't know, because he just purchased Scale Coat, I think, too. Scale Coat paint.
Really?
I think that was him. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Motrac got he just got everything, and he's these people are going out of business because they're getting old, and maybe they want to have a second chapter in their life, or third chapter, fourth chapter. Sure. But he's the guy who's got the stuff, and I've never actually I purchased from him before, and it wasn't a very good purchase, but he's got quite the line of stuff now, and I have no problems saying he's the guy to look out for.
That's good, because paint's been so complicated in the industry with the loss of polyscale and others, which I really like polyscale, but the loss of those paints has been so controversial, which, MRH come out with that guide to acrylics recently that has a chart of comparable colors in various others like Tamiya and these Vallejos, which takes some learning to figure out the intricacies of using it because they're unique. I love them.
We're actually a long time, back in 2006, 2007 when I started, they pulled out all those enamel paints, and those were the standard in the hobby for 50, 60 years. And yeah, they were the really, they're solvent type, and they caused cancer and all the stuff. So you really. It really has come around a lot with the Scale Coat, so you're right there.
Well, we've got some great colors and some great paints out there. Tamiya's a good one. Vallejo's, I really, really do love Vallejo. That's came from mostly the military modelers that have done that stuff, and like the big washes and AK Interactive and some of these others. But there's so many of those companies that are coming over from other model industries that are in the paint sector. The problem is all the instructions and all the kits and everything you get that, all the, F and C or Finaro Cover Lego kits that you get out there, Silver Streaks or all these Craftsmen, they all have the paint chip and charts for polyscale or one of those. So, figuring out the railroad colors when you're buying, like German uniform gray is a little difficult.
Mm-hmm. Wow. When I started, it was like, where did driftwood paint go? And it wasn't around for the longest time, Driftwood paint went to Dr. Benz.
Yeah, David put a thing up here in the chat, said Scale Coat paint was bought by Minuteman Models.
Minuteman, that's what it was. I was sorry. I was wondering if I was right or not.
So hard to keep up. There's so many of these. All these, Rich Relics and all these other guys that make 2 or 4 or 6 kits. They're great. They're awesome stuff happening, but they make so little. But there's so many of them, and you're not going to find it in a author's catalog.
Well, in regards to rents, like some of these kit makers, like I I started out with Imagine That Laser Art, and I imagine a lot of these designers are the same. They can design a kit, they can build a kit, but when you get to painting and weathering the thing so that people would buy it from a magazine, that becomes a hard part for these people. And I'd like to see these people really paint their kits proper.
There's been a couple questions in the chat too for you since we're on this, but Sparky 107 asked when you were learning to build the kits and weathering and details, is there a book that you got the value out of, or is it just mostly like most of us? Did you mess up until you found your way through it?
I started out as a lackey, an unpaid volunteer for Imagine That Laser Art. So when I started, I did a lot of failing before I did it. But these books are a step-by-step 100-page manual about some, they get into details like you'll never get from anywhere else. Like the Sierra West kits that I've got right now. There's a full page about the difference between paint that is like slightly dry, meaning that it's got a crust over top and underneath it's wet still, and cured paint. And there's a big difference, because if you let your paint cure over 24 hours, you can paint over top of it with any color, even if it's a translucent color, and get a variation on it. But if you paint over top of it an hour later, when it's just got the crust over top, those two layers will mix together, and it'll ruin the effect. So, these manuals really teach you some insight for modelers who have learned this from the mistakes. So it isn't a purchase. Like, I've seen layouts where you have FSM kits like 7 in a row, and it's like I asked myself, did this guy have the money to be able to afford this stuff, or did he use those kits to learn, right? And what I say is that if you buy the one that you really like, you're going to learn so much about the hobby of building structures that you may not ever have to buy another one of these super kits ever again. So, but the super kits that I like are the South River Model Work, Fine Scale Miniatures, and Sierra West Scale models. Those are the 3 best ones. I've never built a Foss Scale model kit, but I know that guy knows what he's doing.
Now, I've listened to him talk on some of the podcasts and stuff, and he just talks from a point of education that really sounds like his kits would have to be, quality product. I've been looking at some of those too, but
yeah, I give him the benefit of the doubt. I've never built his kit though. That's my.
I think the South River Model Works. I've been for a while thinking about. I've built a bunch of these, bar bills and various other wood kits. They're $100 or less. I built, a couple dozen or whatever, and I really wanted to drop a big bunch of money on one of those exceptional kits. I just couldn't find an FSM kit that was exactly what I needed for my layout. But there's a South River Model Works warehouse that is just a couple $100, and I've got my eye on it.
Yeah, if you're talking about a small company town kind of industry or model, that's South River Model Works.
Let's jump over to Jason real quick for a minute. Now he pops his head up above the desk. What you up to, Jason?
Last couple months, you kept on asking me, when you gonna start going back working on colos? Well, I'm actually working on a gravel load.
Yeah, you got the camera up high. We can't see what you're doing.
Are you using ballast for material, or what are you using for the gravel material?
See if I got something nearby. Could be something like. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, turn your lower third off, and we can see a lot more.
Is it Woody's? Woodland Scenic?
Yeah, Woodland Scenics, yeah.
Yeah.
Ballast.
Yeah.
That'll be my ballast loads.
It looks,
Okay.
which is not horrible for actual gravel because it has
No.
the walnut shells have a kind of a texture to it that I don't always love for ballast, but for actual unfinished gravel or rough gravel in a car, it's not so bad.
I'm just making my
The insert, you just mesh that, or that's foam core.
Yeah.
And you're cutting that on your leg live on video. This is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Foam board. Yep.
So do you? And I've got to make some of those. Do you cut around the ribs? So like I have some hoppers, and they have slight ribs on the inside, on the back side of the rib, whenever a bolt. Cut around it, or do you press fit? Yeah, those, like those lines. So do you just press fit really tightly into that, or do you try to cut around those?
The thing is that they don't go all the way down to the ribs.
No, but see, just on the inside of that, there's that slight. There's a slight. The back side of your rivet lights has that slight raised bit of styrene or steel on the prototype, and I made some out of foam core. And if I put it in there to where it'll fit, then there's a slight gap. So when you pour coal on top of it, it either would go down in that little gap, or if you glued it all and set it in there, it would leave a little black gap around the outside. And you know, as I've ever slightly picky, it annoys me.
I'll press fit it.
I thought about a few solutions for doing that. Have you seen Ken Patterson's latest video on how he made his coal load inserts?
No.
He took a plastic bag. He took a plastic bag, stuffed it down in the hopper or gondola, and then took that foam, the pro version of that spray foam stuff that he likes to use, which is pretty awesome. And filled it up, let it cure, jerked it up out of there, ripped the plastic bag off from it, sanded it. It was pretty interesting. So.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go that way. But yeah, it's a good idea what he does, but it's a lot of money he puts into that.
I'm not sure it's the best way for me either. I think I like the foam core method. I'm not sure. I need something to put on top of it. But spray foam is too hard to work with.
I use Gorilla Glue. That stuff that that stuff that grows like crazy, and the first time you used it, you said to yourself, "I am never using this crap ever again."
Yeah.
I've come around, and that stuff works the same as the spray foam from Ken Patterson. The thing is I'm not going to buy a commercial gun that's $250. You know, and this Gorilla Glue is something that you can really use precisely. It's not something that really grows out of control until when you learn how much to use and how much water to add.
Yeah, the trick is water, right? So you just mist it with water, and it grows like a chia pet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, and the thing is that how much of a bead of glue that you put out is the issue. And that bag trick that Ken Patterson uses would work great with this Gorilla Glue stuff, because the Gorilla Glue, it foams up, but it's not like spray foam where you can't push it down. If you touch the Gorilla Glue, it really is this really weak and hollow. Yeah, it'll collapse on you, and you can control it that way. So.
See, I don't like the idea of filling the whole car with the foam anyway, because then I'd have to dig it out to put weight in there. I want to put weight in my false loads. So an empty car is lighter, and heavy. You know, a loaded car is heavier. So I like the idea of doing what Jason's doing with his loads, which a lot of he's built on here look really good, and put weight on the bottom of the load. So I could use the foam core to slap a little of that Gorilla Glue on top of it.
Now, before I stick my foot in my mouth, there was somebody who pulled, like, I watched a video right after Ken Patterson where a gentleman had an actual block of coal, and he smashed it up with a hammer and used that. And I thought that Ken Patterson, what he had, worked great. And, you know, you could really put a weight inside to suffice, you know, like, I have a problem, not to be offensive to that guy who hammered out the coal, but I've got a problem with actually using real world materials unnecessarily when you can use art in a very cheap and easy way. Think outside the box style.
Right, and I have a balance between that too. Like, there's things that I haven't found a good substitute for dirt other than dirt.
Yeah.
Foam rubber does not look like dirt to me. Dirt looks like dirt, and leaves look like leaves. I'm worried about the longevity of them. How they will break down. And I dull coat it and clear coat it, put glue on it and everything. So maybe, but I don't know. I don't know yet. But coal is a weird, ultimately a biological product. So I'm curious. But I've got a friend, and I'm from Kentucky, so the coal industry is pretty close to me, that can grate coal down to me to a specific size, but I don't know if it's the right solution either. I don't know if it's the right method for coal loads, and coal loads are something that's going to be critical to my Appalachian Coal Hauling Railroad. It's doggone important.
Well, I hate to do it, but you got to give credit where credit is due, and I often find that I do a technique, and 2 days later, Dave Frary will put out a picture about how it failed for him over a period of 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
The gentleman, he's old. He's an older guy, and he is the scenery guy. So when I make my water on top of foam, and then he shows pictures of the water with real bubbles underneath because the foam's leaching gas. Yeah. I'm like, oh man, and I just made a video of that. It doesn't make me really like him, but he's the guy to watch, because he's got the tips. He's been in the trenches, so.
Yeah, he's humbling to watch the amount of experience that
he's humbled me like no other,
Well, it's so matter his videos, and he has a YouTube channel just recently, by the way, put up a YouTube channel over just the last couple months, and he's put a lot of stuff on, a lot of older historic stuff, but the thing that I noticed about him is everything he does is so matter of fact. It's like, I just threw together everything, scratch built head, laid back on this beautiful SN2 main scene, and just, by the way,
you hang out with Uncle Dave, you got to be ready for a cuff in the back of the head. Actually, he was part of a podcast starting in about 2007, and they went right till about 2012, 13 of the Scotty Mason show.
Right.
And in that entire show, not to put to say that this one's, I sticking my foot in my mouth. It's a great thing to look back because it's all available online, and all this stuff is great to listen to while you're hacking away at your kits.
Or driving. I listen to all the podcasts.
Yeah.
And I don't consider any of this competitive. I think we all work together in the exchange.
Complementary.
Yeah, just collection of people who share information. And podcasts fill a certain niche. Now, I love the value of video. I can watch Jason build those coal loads and figure that out. I can watch Shane as he works on decoders and things like that. And podcast is not the right medium for capturing that detail. But podcasts are great at 80 miles an hour, while I do watch a few YouTubes that way at the cost of an occasional totaling of an automobile, but podcasts are more suited for that.
Hope your insurance company's not watching.
I hope Kentucky State Police isn't watching.
They can check my data usage at the time of the car wreck. I wasn't doing anything at that time. However, any of you who've been on here on Hangouts with me enough have been on a Hangout with me at 80 miles an hour a few times. So it's not beyond me to do that. But podcasts are so suited to driving down the road, they're just not necessarily suited to technique. You can't share technique there. You could talk about the hobby. You could talk about the news of what's happening. You could say that Microtrades has a new coupler out, but you can't, it's not the right medium to showcase the quality differences. Mm-hmm. Hey, is that got a Shane? If you got is that a line in the front of that? Did MRL have a? What is that?
What do you mean?
Is that Rudolph?
Oh no, the red dot on the MRL paint scheme. It's actually funny. MRL's never been solid about that red dot, and it's on the front and the back of this one here.
Yeah.
But they've never been solid in terms of the paint scheme because some units have them on the front, some units have them on the back, some units have them all together, and some units don't.
I didn't think I had seen that before, and I was curious if it was illuminated like a beacon light or something. But
no, it's just a red dot on the paint scheme, and I'm not a fan of it. But the F-45s had them on just the one had them on the rear, and one had them on the front and the rear. Some of the SD70 Aces they bought a couple years back have them on the rear. Some of them have them on the front and the rear. I've never quite understood it. When I custom paint them, I leave it off because I don't get the red dot, but it's just part of the paint scheme.
that's interesting.
Yeah, hang on a second, Andy. All right, Ron, let's see if we can get this worked out real quick.
If you have your icon highlighted, it'll always be stuck on your screen. So if you click your icon, it should take away the white box around your.
Right, that's what it was. I see what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, okay, I clicked on Shane so we could see him showing the logo. You couldn't see Shane?
I do. It's live on mine. It's live to Shane right now.
Well, maybe it's just me.
Well,
I was just looking at you, buddy.
Well, here's one bit of information for everybody who's watching. If you're watching on the YouTube live feed, at the bottom down there, you'll see the play pause button, the little volume thing, and there's a little button that says, or a little piece of text that says live. Beside it, there's a red dot. If that red dot is illuminated red, then you are live or as live as possible. However, you could buffer. You could pause, go to the bathroom, come back, and you'll just be 2 or 3 minutes behind. Yeah. If you ever want to get caught up and make sure that you are current with the live action of the show, just click the word live if it's grayed out, and it will skip over whatever is buffered and put you back live.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
Just
Sorry
for
about
you.
that, Johnny.
That's okay.
Well, we got to work through this. This is the first experiment of this.
Just make my hairline recede a little bit more there,
Oh,
Ron.
come on. You're going to have to turn around for me to see it. I got the same issue. I don't shave my head just because.
Yeah.
Well, you save all kinds of money on haircuts, though. I mean, you've got to, you got to take the positive in things all the time. I'm 5'7". That's, I say, I am height challenged, but I don't butt my head very much.
Yeah, that's true. I'm 6 foot, and I do.
Of course. That's the consequence. See, I got to keep more brains that way, but what are you doing to that thing? Oh, I remember having to solder those old Athearn headrails. Have you used any of those kits that they make for replacing the handrail kits? There's
I'll be honest with you. This is
that make those that I've heard of or that I know of, and Trademasters TV did a video of a guy intermixing those two kits to put the replacement handrails on an old Athearn blue box and he used real scale chain for the cross.
See, I was right. Just wait. In the chat, Dave says that John doesn't have any audio on YouTube. That's because he turned off his mic and he turned on that monitor volume. So you got to switch around.
Yeah. Yeah, I was worried about that too a minute ago.
Oh, so.
Fail.
Yeah. All right, so now my audio should be working in the YouTube. I just turned the mic auxiliary back on. Let's see if that echo comes back.
So that's strike 3 yet?
No, come on now with you.
Hey, I made the disclaimer at the beginning of the show that this was a learning process.
And your audio is back. It'll take a second before I found out if there's echo, but and yes, there is echo. So we're capturing it. And what I fear where you're capturing it from is in your sources. If you'll just go turn off that audio capture source so that it's only using the desktop capture instead of using that audio source input. Remember where
the only thing I've got turned on as sources is window capture.
Okay, that doesn't explain it then. Never mind.
It does.
It does because of you're gonna have to go to using a headset. That's just.
Yeah. That's why I got one on. I hate it too. I look like a alien.
Well, I mean, that's, well, yeah,
What's that
that's
got
the
to do
thing.
with
And this thing just comes
Andy,
off.
Andy.
sir?
Yeah, that was the thing. I'll have to switch on the live show here. I'll have to switch to the wireless headset, so I'm gonna have to get a hardwire set then.
Oh yes.
Cause these are wireless.
Okay. We'll cross that bridge. We'll have to figure that out. That's just one of the bugs we have to sort. I'm sorry for all the echo, guys. This is, Google's not necessarily making it easy.
I'll just try and remember to when I start to talk, turn this mic back on for the YouTube people.
Well, I think the echo is going to be not on yours. I'm afraid the echo is going to be on ours because you're capturing it from the desktop audio, but you're also capturing it because Hangouts is playing it to the speakers, and your microphone is also capturing it. So what you'd have to do is mute your mic when you're not talking, and unmute it anytime you are talking, and then we wouldn't have an echo.
All right, we'll do that then. Let me get back over to this screen.
Bruce just said it stopped.
Yeah, because Johnny muted, so he just have to.
What a pain in the butt, eh?
Google's not Hangouts on Air was a good product. It just wasn't. It wasn't a good product for their marketing scheme, but for us, it fit the bill. And I've said that for a long time. It's people talk about being able to increase the quality or various things that can be done. Absolutely, you can. But the barrier to entry, how difficult it is, massively goes up compared to Hangouts on Air. It was easy. So what paint are you? What's your favorite? Rod, give me an idea of the paints that you prefer. What do you do for that? Because I've had some difficulty. Vallejo, I'm really happy with, but the selection of color isn't there. They're great. I love what's there. And Tamiya, I don't have a lot of experience with, but everybody seems to like those. Or Shade, well, there's a few guys like them. Shade likes those, I think, right?
Yeah, they shoot. They're a little spotty. So if you're doing like weathering, which I've actually become a bigger fan of, what is it, Model Master or whatever it is?
Is that the Testers, Model Masters?
Model color.
Right, yeah, Vallejo.
Yeah.
I love this stuff.
Yeah.
Love.
Let me hang on. Let me get my airbrush box.
But the selection of colors not there. And if you're custom mixing everything, great, no problem. But if you want repeatability, we'll see. But I do like the Vallejo.
I'm moving to airbrush, so I am redoing all my paints, and I've got Vallejo, and I have a box of the Badger stuff. What is the Badger stuff called?
Oh yeah.
Model Flex.
Model Flex. I have a box of Model Flex coming for review. Yeah, and I can't wait for that to come in. But
how's the selection?
Before, I'm just like everybody out in the chat, and I use dollar store paints for years and years on all of my Craftsman kits. But when it comes to plastic, yeah, that's the Apple Barrel and the dollar store stuff. But when it comes to plastic doesn't really grab that thick pigment as nicely as our Vallejo or Model Flex or these other paints. And that's what we were talking about earlier. The enamel paints were amazing. They just killed you. They gave you lung cancer.
It's not very good to kill your customer base.
Yeah, they were great, but because like after the brush went past, you had the stroke of the brush and all the texture from the brush bristles, and it would level out on its own, and it would dry really thin. And this dollar store paints, they don't really dry really thin, and you can really see your texture of the brush stroke in it. So that is only conducive to wood, in my experience. When you're working on plastic, you want to have a nice fine stuff like that Vallejo stuff. He's got the same one that I've got right there, and it's all about the pigment and how coagulating on you, and it's done. Like, you really have to throw that stuff out because you really start ruining things when that happens, you know? And wood is very forgiving. However, when it comes down to it, you get to these nice paints, it really goes a long way into really looking good on plastic. And I understand why this guy has Shane has some really nice paints there because he's a locomotive guy, and I think the demographic of younger people are really into locomotives and stuff like that. So
Yeah, Shane,
that doesn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, Shane, can you tilt your camera down just a little bit so people can see your...
Yeah, I was going to go through what all I've got. I've been working with the Model Master lately. It's the acrylic, and I've been weathering with this. And I just did a 460 steam locomotive, which I'll have pictures of later. And this comes out really nice, really smooth, especially when you start fading, especially in weathering when you're doing dust and exhaust. This fades out really nicely.
And that's the testers. That's the testers product, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So, but that acrylic, I'm really starting to like when it comes down to when you're doing weathering. Like I said, it's not as spotty and it fades out real nice.
I've got a tip for that after you're done.
And then I just started using that Badger's Model Flex. I bought the pack, the weathering pack of paints.
Yeah.
And theirs also shoots really nice and fades out real nicely. The Vallejo I like for painting, I think it paints better in brush than airbrush, but the thing about it is it's so thick. I find myself cleaning the airbrush more than I actually do paint because...
The Vallejo, yeah, me too.
It just gums up so quickly. I will say the one thing I do like from Vallejo is their the varnish, and which is what I use for a clear coat, and it doesn't take off powders. I learned that from Pete Solberg, writes for Model Railroader. That's what he uses.
Haley, yeah.
He shoots it through an airbrush, and I just tried it on that 460, and it doesn't take up your powders, which is what you find a lot with clear coats and dull coats when you're weathering with powders and pastels and whatnot. Is often that takes that right off, like as if you were wiping it with a watered down rag. But and then the Tamiya color I like shoots really nice solid, but I wouldn't weather with this because it shoots kind of spotty in terms of the polka dottedness as you start to kind of fade out. So if you're doing one solid color, the Tamiya is not bad. I'm working on some MRL stuff in the Tamiya royal blue and their black, and it's just about spot on with MRL. But the one thing I have preached a lot about with that from that Tamiya is that that smoke color, which I don't have it up here, but I've talked about it on Hangouts before with the weathering wood, the raw wood with that smoke. And I believe Andy was here when I built at least part of this barn, but you can kind of see that weathered wood compared to the natural white wood that hasn't been touched yet. And I guess here's a little bit better shot of that decking. Done up in just that raw, just nothing mixing it with it, just brush that smoke on it. It just weathers up raw wood really nicely. But
yeah, I watched you do some of that, and that effect is exceptional. And I'm, of course, doing a lot of wood kits and stuff. I care a lot about paint. That matters because I'm starting to do some resin kits. But stains, and I've done a lot of India ink, which I like. I have a lot of respect for India ink, but it tends to lose its color over time, especially with plaster. It can leach out due to humidity in plaster.
Yeah.
So I've been using more acrylics on my rock work and plaster work, and then I got some of these putter line stains. This stuff is first class for staining.
He's Canadian. That guy's Canadian.
I talked to him at the NMRA show for while Johnny was outside waiting on me for 30
Isn't his
45 minutes.
last name Hunter?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
guy, yeah.
I'm getting that.
Now we're getting real bad echo here.
Is it? Okay.
Andy?
Okay, so about that paint, Shane, the model, the one you had on this side, the left side, probably you're right.
I would say flip-flop for me. The Model Masters or the Tamiya?
The Model Master. So
Okay.
I heard Tim Warris of Fast Tracks. He said that if you turn your paint bottles upside down, they will last longer because it's important to know that these paints have a shelf life. They get coagulated and they turn to crap. You know, so those glass bottle jars like that, if you turn them upside down, number one, they won't get really stuck on you when you're pulling the lid off anymore because they're already juiced up. They don't dry up when they're upside down.
Right.
So, and that's that. And then Andy was saying something just a second ago, and I had something to say. What was he just saying?
I chimed in on these, like this 100-line weathering mix stain. So
Yes. Okay. So, an old admin of the Modelers Guild's name was Lex Parker, and he's a master model builder. He's an amazing modeler.
Yeah, man.
And he's one of those guys who's been around since the age of whatever.
Like trades. He was, animatronic. Trades.
Yeah, so he talks about using oil-based stains, and he makes his stains from shoe polish, which is an oil base. So he never uses India ink and alcohol because it fades on him, and he doesn't like it.
Right. And I do my ties with mid wax, even though they take days for my head lay track. They take days to dry, and it's a horrible process in every way to do. But if I lay track and spend all this time putting tie plates and all that stuff on my track, I want it to look good in 2 decades. So
okay. And then a tip for using stains when you're working on a building. Let's say a clapboard wall. If you put that stain with the building straight up and down, you're doing it the wrong way. You have to put the wall upside down so that the stain fits underneath your clapboards, fits underneath your windows, and fits underneath everything else that should be a shadow.
Wow.
So if you turn it upside down, you're given the right perspective of your shadow. Instead of putting it on the lintel, you're putting it up on the top of the window where you want that shadow.
Well, like Charles Kirk, who, again, just like Lex Parker, he's one of those people I have to put in the top-notch, top echelon of artistic modeling.
2 totally different modelers, but yeah.
Absolutely. Charles Kirk, totally different style, totally different whatever, just totally different in so many ways, and what he models, and just so many things. But he paints. Okay, so the British modelers spend a lot of time on lighting, and as an electronics guy, I spend a lot of time thinking about LEDs and spots. And Lex Parker talks about using spotlights to create shadow. A lot of people want to flood everything in fluorescent and kill shadow.
I force it.
Yes, but I want shadow. I just want the right amount. I just want the right amount.
By doing it upside down, you're forcing the issue.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned Charles Kirk, because he paints shadow into his structures and scenery and stuff. He will paint a shadow line across roads and scenery by airbrushing the grass work behind the building. He's an artist. I don't think I can pull that off. But at least taking the concept and kind of expanding on it is just awesome.
He's got an out-of-production DVD. And now I don't know what to say about that because I've got that DVD, but it's out of production.
Man, I want that.
So, there's so much that he teaches out of that, and the chaos that he teaches will blow your mind. Blow your mind. He talks about taking paint and just splashing it down on his palette and using it that way. And it's like, how did you make that work? And then he does it in front of you, and you're like, oh, that's great. And then you try to do it yourself, you make a mess of it.
I've used some of his techniques. I mean, I've been using this. A lot of people use like Mod Podge gloss and stuff for making waterways, and I did, and it fogged up on me. But I watched his water technique that he used for, for coastlines or whatever, and I bought some gloss glaze, from an artist supply store. This stuff, and it's the same stuff that Charles Kirk was using, and it is first class, the way to make. I would generally say the way to, same kind of stuff as that, but the same to make water.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I have to give Dave credit,
but there's a gloss medium.
Right. It's same basic thing. This is just so thick. It's just unbelievably thick. It holds up to volume. It creates some curvature and stuff. But I've had to figure out how to work with it. And Charles Kirk explains it, but. There's details I've had to learn about it that were outside of that video. I do have to give Dave credit on here. He made some oceanfront with RTV caulk or whatever that looked silicone that looked doggone good. Okay, for how easy it was incredible for how easy it was.
Was it, Dave?
Yeah, Dave, he's on here.
There's an echo.
Yeah,
this Dave. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
okay.
used
I thought you were talking about Dave Frary because Ken Patterson wrote an article in the '90s about using caulk like that, or silicon.
Oh
and
yeah.
It was he wrote an article and I got it here and I totally copied word like I never made a video because I don't like doing that kind of plagiarism, you know.
I bought
Ron, can you hold that ball up one more time and just give people a little time to see what Liquitex?
And I bought his video, Ken Patterson's DVD or downloadable video from the internet on water making, and it's using that product.
Yeah, so this is Liquitex matte medium, and this is what Dave Frary says to use on all your scenery stuff because you'll never see shiny from matte medium.
For glue.
Yeah, and this is used. He uses this for everything. In terms of scenery, grasses, trees, all that stuff, and the alternative to this is gloss. Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Great idea. Yeah.
I use
That's all I ever use.
That's shiny. That's gloss medium.
So
that's a thinned down gloss medium.
This one's the matte. So I have the gloss that I've used for water, but this one's matte, and this is what like Luke Towan uses.
It is an acrylic medium. Mod Podge is an acrylic medium that is a looser. It's looser.
Yeah.
It's acrylic, and it's a medium, and it's no different than this.
Okay, I was curious if it's how far removed from that because I learned this. I use white glue, but it's shiny.
Smells the same. Smells the same. Has the same texture. Everything. It'll take water because it's acrylic, and whenever you see acrylic, you can add it. The only thing I found out is when you do this, don't use wet water because it'll turn it white.
Yeah, I have that same problem with it, and you cannot mix alcohol with it because it turns into
soap. Or dish soap.
Yeah, or dish soap. You can't mix anything. Just distilled water is what I use with it. But
what about wetting it down? Like I use nothing but matte medium for my ballast, and I do use. I mist it first with a wet water, then I come back and put that on with a dropper, and I usually dilute it 50-50 with water, Culligan water first, and it works great for ballast cement.
That's what I use for matte. Well, I don't use matte medium. I use Mod Podge, but it's essentially like Rod said, it's essentially the same thing.
This is my assumption because I got this about a month ago, and I've been failing like crazy because I figured that there's soap in it, and if you prove me wrong, please tell me. But I think it's the soap that's making it turn white, and I imagine you can't see it because your ballast is light gray.
See, Mod Podge doesn't have that.
But I'm not using Liquitex either. I'm using a different brand, a cheaper generic brand. But
that could be it too.
It does turn white.
It turns white by itself when you put it. If you put it on way thick, it turns white. But otherwise, the Mod Podge does not. It's completely flat. But I don't use soap at all with it. I soak everything down. I don't mix alcohol with it because it turns into gelatinous crap. But I spray the surface down with 90% alcohol, and then I put the matte medium down or Mod Podge down.
Pretty much what I do too.
I think the soap is a part of a problem. I think you'd be better with alcohol.
Andy, refresh.
Okay.
Yeah, I found all that the works much better than like white glue. A lot of people use the white glue. Well, that dries hard. It resonates the sound more. The matte medium is much softer. For 5, 10 years later, it's still good and soft. You can actually just peel it right up with a putty knife. I've reballasted and retracked areas that I did with matte medium. I'll never go back to white glue. There's no way.
No, I won't use white glue. A lot of people like to. It is economical, but it is shiny, and I can't kill it even with dull coat. I like the Mod Podge, and I do think matte medium or Mod Podge probably about the same effect but I love working with them.
I never thought about using it for water, though. That's a pretty cool idea.
Well, people talked about using Mod Podge. I have a bottle of the gloss luster version of it that I bought for doing it. and I did some mud puddles on a little gravel road, and it worked great. It was awesome. I totally loved the effect. I got really excited about it. I put some sand down first on styrofoam. I just pressed it with my thumb, so it gave me the indentation. It kind of cracked. The dust that I had put down, it gave me some dry cracking effect, and then I put the shiny crap over it, and it was awesome. But then when I done this little stream bed over here, it's foggy in spots, and I think it's because I put it on too thick too fast. If I put thinner layers, it probably wouldn't have. But this gloss medium, like what Rod was talking about too, that stuff, I've laid it on as thick as you can get it to set in place, and it's just as clear as anything once it's dry. And
a trick to fix your water is to paint over. We're getting an echo. You paint it over, and then you gloss on top of it, because the depth of your clear is not what you're looking for in terms of water. You're looking for shiny and the right color.
Okay, but but it's a stream. Now on my rivers, I have all kinds of flexibility. This is just a small little stream with the river rock bed. So I could put like a translucent coat where you could still see through it, like tinting it basically, and then lace. Okay, I like that. I'm gonna give. I've been afraid to do it though, because it's not.
Then again, you can also cut the edges. You cut the edges and pull it up.
I know. I've been there too, because it's just some gravel. I peel the edges back, pour some gravel down, and
I think that's one of the most valuable lessons a modeler can ever have, is to bite their tongue, to get over the whole ego of getting it right the first time.
Yep.
And you rip it up, or you paint over, or you sand it off, and start over again, because once you've learned a lesson, the lesson has been learned, and all you can do is move forward.
Man, I ain't a bit afraid to tear something out or redecide or read. Actually, I designed the whole way I built my layout from the structure up. I didn't use L-girder or any of those other methods, because I found them very hard to change. Even though L-girder is designed to be easier to change, I found that it was so involved that I was so resistant to changing it because of the involvement. Mine's all styrofoam. If I want something to go somewhere, I just hack at it with a big old bread knife for a little while, and a little bit of paint, a little bit of glue. I've changed the whole thing, and it doesn't cost me anything. So.
Hey, Andy.
Sir.
How's the chat over doing?
So I had a couple things to go into. I wanted to mention, once we had got past some of the scenery talk about NMRA stuff, but I'd like to ask about that in a second. So Sparky 107 said that Woodland Scenics Realistic Water worked great for him, and of course you had to paint under it. And a lot of people rave about that product. That's got a lot of really good results I've heard of. Anybody else use that one too?
The detail about water, though, is to cover up the foam that you've got under it, and that whether you use plaster or something, you just lay a strip of plaster down, or you put a piece of hardboard underneath it or something like that, and it'll be a long-term solution rather than using foam, because foam leaches up gas.
Yep. You can't
put little bubbles.
You can't put anything above foam that's not porous, that won't let the gas escape. People talk about sealing it, but it just...
Yeah, now Kathy Mellett put out a video not too long ago, I think last month or a month before, that she used realistic water or something like that. No, she used...
she used Envirotex and Magic.
Yeah, Envirotex.
She did it right over foam, though, didn't she?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but her problem was it's starting to yellow. Yeah. But the room where she has her layout is up in the top of the building. I think she's got a lot of skylight in there.
It gets hot.
And I think the UV light was what was yellow.
I think a great lesson for a YouTube video maker to take is that when you're about to make a video about something, and I learned this from doing water, because I failed every time I tried to make a video doing it. I failed every single time. And if you're going to teach people how to do something, they're spending lots of money on their layout, it shouldn't be the first time you ever do it. And I've done this myself. But I notice a lot of people are just that they'll give handed down information as the final product, and I'm guilty of this too.
Yeah. Oh, well, one thing about Kathy's was a friend of hers was doing the same thing. Now, he took the Viratex, put it in
That's the best stuff ever.
Yeah, he put it in a jar, and he put something else in a jar, and he put them in a cabinet.
Magic.
And they still turned yellow.
Well,
they weren't in contact with the styrofoam or anything.
Yeah, he put it in a plastic cup in Viratex, just in Viratex, put it in water. It turned yellow as rust after like 10 years. But the magic water had not yellowed in quite a few years. Magic water is a 2-part resin, slightly different mix. In Viratex 1-to-1, magic water is 1-to-2. I after watching Kathy Millett's videos and some of the other research, I've always used a Viratex in the past. It's the only product I'd ever used for water. For small water and for ripples and stuff like that, I'm sold on this gloss medium. Only way to go. For thick water, I'm going to use the magic water.
Well, I watched a video from that gentleman from Sweden.
Marklin
of Sweden. He makes great, funny
toilet
videos.
paper.
Toilet paper.
Toilet paper.
Let me bring this thing over here.
He uses toilet paper and white glue for everything. We're talking about all these complicated things and scenery goop and paper mache and latex. He uses toilet paper for everything.
We got any more in the Q&A there, Andy?
So somebody mentioned that your audio isn't working, but I'm going to go check that in a second. And once we pass some of the scenery,
that's because I keep forgetting to
unmute you. Right.
Go back over here to OBS.
You just need to set yourself a hotkey. Oh, that looks good.
It's toilet paper, man. It's toilet paper. And I painted the foam black underneath it. And I know that it's foam. I'm going to cut everything off of this when I put it on a layout one day. But it's toilet paper. And it was white. When I put the toilet paper on, it was all white.
Yeah.
And then you paint over it with your green and your black or whatever, your brown. And then I put gloss medium over it.
Yeah.
Not very thick at all, but it's toilet paper. And the toilet paper, you just fill it up with glue.
Yeah.
And then you make your waves out of it. You push it into waves so it does its right thing. And it's just the most amazing thing ever. It was so easy.
So full strength white glue, and all you end up with is some little swan pictures or whatever's on your toilet paper, or I got pictures of Donald Trump on my toilet paper or something, but whatever, some kind of toilet paper textures, it's going to be under your water. It just amazes me that all the complexity and all the technology and money and products and advertising for making water, and a 30-cent roll of toilet paper looks that good.
Well, this is something to consider, because all of these things that we want to do is all about the right color, the right texture, and the right finish. Right?
Back to your boy Dave Frary. He has mastered that color, that beryllium blue.
Yeah, but then there's Payne's gray.
Yeah.
And in this, I'm using army green.
Yeah, Miles turned me on to Payne's gray, and
Trolls Kirk is Payne's gray. Yeah.
Yeah, Miles Hale turned me on to that one, and I use it in oil colors, and I made an oil dilution with the Payne's gray to make a wash, and it has such a
Payne's gray is like a navy blue, but the more you thin it out, the more blue it gets.
Yeah, but if you keep it rich, it has a black, but it has a really flat, dirty, grimy. I bottle coal Appalachian Valley. It's dirty, grimy dirt. It's awesome.
Who makes
Sparky's right. Let it dry first.
Who made that army gray, Ron?
Pardon me?
What brand of army gray did you use?
Oh, that's my dollar store paint.
Oh, okay.
And it's custom to the guys in the chat, because they can't hear you, John. He asked what my army green paint is, and I just made it custom. Like I just like certain colors, and Trolls Kirk said that there's no reason to ever buy a color that you need. You can always make it with your major colors.
Sure, but that's yeah. And I've been studying it's amazing what you have to learn as a model railroader. I've been, I got a 8-page document from Stanford on the chemically adhesive properties of hairspray that I read in depth, and it's awesome, and it's a great document that Sherry from here turned me onto that document, and then the chemical properties of the acrylic particles in the solvent, and I mean it's just amazing what you have to learn. That they've always said you're a carpenter, an electrician, an artist, whatever as a model railroader. No, I'm bordering on chemical engineering and stuff here. This is craziness.
Let me jump in here real quick. Ron was shaking that ball up. I've got what I do with some of my paints, Ron, is I put a couple of BBs in there. You ever do that?
Good idea. Good idea.
That way you don't have to shake it so harder for so long,
That's tricking you out, eh?
Yeah.
They clog the tip, though, on these new models that have this tip. They get right down in the top of that when you're, I can't put them in, you can't put them in there and leave them in these.
Man of experience there.
Yeah, but I mean, the other paints like the craft paints and
right,
other ball paints that you get, the Tamias and all that, you can put BBs in there and use them to shake them up. Because I thought about doing that to my Vallejo because it has the nipple on there for squirting the paint out.
Yep.
And I went, I can't do that because the BB will roll right up in there and stop it.
That's right. That's why I thought about that too. Which the Vallejo paint actually does shake up pretty well. But I watched Dave Mondar, or one of those guys, somebody YouTube, done something the other day. Took an old jigsaw, mounted a piece of
I've seen that.
brass rod. Did you see that?
That's hilarious.
And pounded a piece. Yeah, it was great. But he mounted a piece of brass rod into an old jigsaw, put a big pill bottle on the end of it, and now he sticks his bottle of paint down in that little pill bottle.
Yeah, puts the lid on and
turns the jigsaw on, yes, and paints the whole room with his paint, but shakes the paint. It's a paint shaker, like whoever tool manufacturer that I'm going blank on right this second makes a paint shaker for these small bottles, but it's
Micromark.
I don't know why.
Anything you want to find on Micromark, go look on Amazon first.
It's just too doggone expensive, and I can go to a pawn shop and buy a jigsaw for $10. So,
in my experience, you look in model railroading for something. You look in war painting, or what are they? War gaming.
Yeah, Warhammer or Warhammer.
You'll find the same products for cheaper.
Yep.
Often.
Well, and some of it, like the static grass stuff, is really good, and they're ahead of us in some of those areas.
Well, they get their ideas from model railroading, though.
Yeah.
I got this flock box from warpainter.net, and it's amazing what I can do with it, as compared to all the other static machines that I've ever had.
Oh yeah,
but actually, it's the first one that ever shocked me, and it shocks me like 5 or 6 times while I'm using it. It's not a big shock, but
no, it's not bad. It's just enough to let you know you're still alive, or at least that's what my wife tells me. I was on a live video. She got a hold of my static grass gun. What is this? Blah blah blah. And it got her. She squealed. She threw it. It was great fun for all the guys. I'm just glad it was on live.
Yeah.
I'm also glad she was in the video feed, so they didn't think I beat my wife. But it was funny. Speaking of that, the guys were asking in the chat about your the rope weeds. Are you using sisal twine to make some of that stuff?
Well, I got these. Okay. Oh, here it is, right here. So I got this in an old Master Creations kit, and Master Creations kits are the most challenging kits you could ever make. They were the first examples of laser cut kits.
Aren't they plastic kits?
No, well, maybe they started out as plastic kits, but I've built about 5 of them, and they are level 20.
Really? I've been looking at one.
Oh my God! It's only because of the instructions. when you get a kit, the thing that really gets down to what makes a kit a good kit or a bad kit isn't how they cut the walls, because that's all the same. It's the instructions. So that's what makes these master creation kits so important. Is so hard. But this is rope. It's just twisted rope like that, and it comes like this, and you cut a little bit off, and those are my weeds.
So I got this sisal twine, and it was, I think it was Dave Frary, since he's getting so much highlight tonight. Anyway, I can't remember if it was, but somebody.
Your camera's off.
Yeah, somebody had showed
binder twine. Binder twine.
Yeah, and I've tried a couple different makes of it. The first I bought was like that.
That's hay rope, though. This is a little bit different. This is a lot thinner. The strings in this is a lot thinner.
Okay.
I live on a farm. That's binder twine.
Well, and that's what they call it, sisal, is what. And I bought some first that wasn't this, and it gave me fits. It's like rubber coated or something.
Yeah, so, this is old rope. And you can see how thin that is as compared to what you got.
Right, you can't make grass with this. You can make underbrush with this, but not grass. So
this is an old rope, and I think that this guy just had a good supply. You know, they don't make things like they used to.
Yeah,
That's just the way it goes.
How cliche and how true.
I'm sorry.
It's true. I got you.
How cheap can you get nowadays?
You just can't.
This is
this makes good
1990. 1990 is their circa of kits, and that's when laser cutters came out.
Yeah.
It was like 1995 or something like that. I was like 20 years old.
And they're pretty economical on eBay, some of those master creation kits. I've been looking at a couple that I've got a model of building from pictures, and Master Creations is pretty doggone close to what I need for wall sides, close enough. So I thought about buying them and kit bashing them into a wall side, but the kit looks like it is resin sides or something.
I built the... Oh, I'd have to look at my pictures. I've got pictures of it.
Yeah, it's like a grist mill you built.
No, it was a mortician, or he made caskets. Oh, that's what it was. I'll get to the name quick.
Yeah, you take your cuttings from your quote unquote hemp, throw them on the garage floor, walk on them for about a month, and they come out just like that.
Maybe it is hemp rope.
Hemp rope, okay.
That could be.
That was the smell like, Ron.
Let me burn some.
We're not talking about how smokable our scenery products are. Well, we're talking about how good they recreate grass. Anyway, yeah, I'd seen that kit. That looks really good. See, I like the Master Creation kits, or at least the end results that I've seen.
Oh,
and
they're great.
And they're cheap. I mean, they're on eBay for like $30.
And they they do get expensive, but you can get them with electronics kits inside them.
Oh yeah, I see, like
lighting kits and sound kits and the whole rigmarole. I can't seem to get this picture going.
I'm totally into that. I've been totally doing some Arduino stuff that I'm really fascinated with, but Barry and Mike have been talking a lot about the pickaxe, so I ordered a pickaxe programmer. Oh, that looks so good. That raised seam aluminum is just...
Yeah, the roof is awesome. That's just a cereal box.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, and all those strips are cardboard, laser cut cardboard to run as the strips. And I've made a couple of standing seam roofs just like this after building this kit. And that's kind of just like I said before about a learning kit. Once you do this once, it's on, like Donkey Kong. You got it. You know, I can do a standing seam kit in front of 100 people now.
Yep. So I did. This is standing seam done in styrene, but you can't get some of the things. So I made the ridge cap out of cereal box paper for the ridge cap. But the raised seam aluminum, I tried several methods to do the standing seam, and I couldn't get a good method. So this is evergreen. So now, I mean, it's individual seams that individual.
Mm-hmm. It stands tall with the evergreen. Yeah,
it is.
It still works.
I even sanded it after I put it on, but it's difficult and it's too thick a material. And I mean, I like it. It was the best result I had found so far. But I think I could do better, which is
you could sand it down a bit more, I think. But yeah, it looks good. Looks good.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more gratification in not buying. I mean, you have to put the individual seams on.
Hey, Andy.
More gratification in not buying it.
Andy.
Sure.
I got a belt sander you could use sand those seams.
Lean on it a little bit.
Yeah, they're a little tall. I mean, they're not as tall as the camera makes them look, I have to say. The camera does, because they're not as tall as the camera makes them look. But, I mean, camera does it. I mean, it's hard to catch.
Yeah, that is tall, though. That's a millimeter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. It's too tall. But, I don't know. I mean, that's a cool little building and full interior and everything, but.
Yeah.
I mean, don't have any furniture. These people were just wealthy enough to buy the house, but not wealthy enough to buy furniture for it. So, but that's my little curtains.
Still for rent.
Yeah. This is BTS. I really like BTS.
Oh, better than Scratch, yeah.
Yeah, they're economical, but they have if I could get, this would be better. They come with, again, talking about the detail parts they come with. They come with
laser cut wood doors.
They come with doorknobs. Doorknobs with a little keyhole under the doorknob that you'll never be able to see on camera, but they are exceptional, and you can buy just the doorknobs, thankfully, from their site. So, and I bought a bunch.
What's most important to me, as I said it a couple of times, what are the instructions like for the BTS kits?
They're not bad. They're better than a lot, and for the money of the kit, the instructions are good. They're 7 or 8 pages. They have color photographs.
He's got a couple $800 kits.
Oh yeah, there's some high dollar stuff. I mean, the BTS engine house and stuff is a couple $100 kit, but like their house kits or whatever, which is the vast majority of my layout in coal countries, these little coal camp houses and stuff. 40? I need a bunch of these. So $40 a piece for a well detailed kit is not bad. Or Braid Slide Trades also has a pretty good product for $40 kits because I'm going to need a lot of these, and Branchside has really nice lattice work. That's 2 layers of.
JL makes a nice kit too. Innovative. They're cheap.
Yeah, for the.
If I have a job where I don't have a lot of money to spend on the project, I always go to the catalog of JL Innovative before
I love their
anybody else because they're the most cost-effective kit. They have no problem putting in a oversized plastic in the kit to bring down the price, and I think a lot of people would appreciate that.
Sure.
Sometimes I switch it out, but it's cheap. So.
Well, and they have a lot of kits. I mean, go to their website. You could sit and browse for a while, whereas a lot of these manufacturers just. Like American Model Builders is one of my favorites. They're so dirt cheap. I mean, they don't even put them in boxes. Most of their kits come in a bag. Yeah. But they're $20 or $30, and they're great. That's the kit. If you haven't built a wood kit before, go buy a $25, $30 American Model Builders kit and screw them up or have a good time doing it, whatever. Your feelings aren't going to be hurt. Now, if you go buy a $200 kit, you could end up really sad later. But
yeah,
they're good. They're square. They're square. They're cut well.
Yeah.
They don't have lap siding. They just have scored siding, things like that. And for background structures, no problem. And in my case, what I wanted was I didn't want to use plastic because I'm just not good with plastic. I wanted to buy all these cheap kits to hold the layout for now and go back when I had time and scratch build the key structures. So I built a signal tower from them. It's a $40 kit. And I'll go back and scratch build that wood based on Ben King's drawings. If you remember, Ben King spent 30 years building a 2-foot by 10-foot layout. I mean, literally, he was in Model Railroader many, many times, and his whole layout he worked on was 2 by 10.
Another good kick maker is Richard Shepard's RS Laser.
You're echoing, Andy.
Again?
Yeah.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about the oil-based paints disappearing.
The oil-based stains?
The model paint and that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
It's a company, came out about a year and a half ago. It's called
True Color.
True Color. It's an enamel paint. The only downfall is you have to use their thinner
Yeah.
to clean out your airbrush. But this is all airbrush. It's not. They do have some that are brushable. But the majority of the colors are spray, and they're all model railroading colors.
Yeah, they're few and far between to find those paints like that, and that's a really good point about using their thinner, because each and every different type of acrylic paint or enamel paint has a thinner that it likes and a thinner that it doesn't like. And you only learn that the hard way, and usually it's when you're putting the brush to the bottle. So it's something that you should really look into before you use thinner. That's a good point.
Always have test strips.
Test, always test, yeah.
Okay, and on another note, I just got a text. Phil just landed.
Okay, so he's down safe then.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, where did Andy go?
Hey, I'm still here.
Do you see your screen?
Yep.
I was told to show this to you.
It's an LED.
Nope.
Nope.
What is it?
To your, yeah.
Back up just a little bit, Curtis. Straight back.
To
Yeah.
your, is it a pin on a?
It
Okay.
looks like a grabber.
No, don't worry about what I'm holding it with.
Look at the green dot.
It's a 20 gauge pellet.
A little iridescent green dot.
Oh. Okay.
Move it back over, Curtis. It's almost off screen.
Iridescent green, because I've been trying to figure out for like the insulators on power poles.
Yeah.
That's it. Right there.
How large is that? Because size has been what's been so hard.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That thing is, I've got it on a wire tie, on the end of a wire tie.
Okay. Yeah, I've looked at beads a lot. I've just had a really hard time finding one small enough, because I really want on my.
You get too close.
I see a number of people. Go ahead, Kurt.
You can hardly see them. As far as how big they are, $85 thousandths on the thick end. $58 thousandths on the narrow end. But this here has got.
These insulators are quite small that are supposed to be there, you know, on the tops of the wood poles, and I'd love to have transparent.
Yeah, I think they'll be a little too big, because the big end's 85 thousandths. So that's going to put it just over a 16, almost 3/32.
Yeah.
You got it too close to the lens.
Yeah, it's really hard to get those insulators to look right on the layout, because they get big. But
I know. I want it to be really small. I would use that easy line to go through them. I just can't find a bead small enough my wife's into the beads thing, so I mean, even if they were clear, I could paint them with. Forget who it is right off the top of my head, but there's a company that makes an opaque. Oh, you got a whole bunch of those.
But over in the chat, we've got Sparky asking a question that I think is pretty important to him.
Yeah, I wanted to get chimed in on that. I was just trying to. We were in the middle of a scenery discussion, so I didn't want to drop off from scenery to go out.
Yeah.
So Sparky's asking about the NMRA insurance plan. Any of you guys saw it here? I'm an NMRA member, and I'm assuming quite a few guys are NMRA members. But any of you guys have experience with their insurance? Because my personal knowledge of it is the club insurance and the insurance. But I don't have any experience with the personal collection insurance, which I know they have. But I have homeowners insurance with. That I have taken into account my model railroading and part of my homeowner's insurance. But NMRA's insurance has traditionally been focused, to my knowledge, been traditionally focused on events and clubs and NMRA-sponsored events. But it has to meet a bunch of criteria. It's not meant to replace homeowner's insurance. Homeowner's insurance is the right way to do it, to my knowledge, but that's way beyond the scope of model railroading, I think.
I've never had a lot of faith in the NMRA. They always had a lot of stuff. They've always had a lot of stuff on the brochure.
Yeah.
But I've been a member 3 times. I've got 3 different membership cards. They couldn't figure out that I had a number before, kind of thing.
Yeah.
All I joined was to try to become a MMR, and I haven't been able to get to rule number 1 because I'm not friends with the right people, I guess, or something like that. So
it's a social. It is a social.
It's
thing.
not. You can't put all your faith in what they say they're gonna do. I think they're a great organization. I just think they're meant for some people, not others. And the insurance, I've always thought that it was a club thing.
Me too.
And it's a really not a great deal for clubs because every member of the club has to be a member of the NMRA to become an NMRA sanctioned club. And that really just becomes a pyramid scheme in the end. And I think it all comes down to the details of it. Like, are they going to give you money after an act of God? And I think that's the most important question.
Well, it has to have all these criterias. Like I had a flood here at my house. I had a water.
That was you. I was gonna say, yeah.
And I had a water line leak, and it was and it soaked all kinds of stuff. It done more damage to personal possessions. But Kentucky Fire Bureau Insurance wrote me a check for $20,000 after like 8 days of discussion. It was quick and easy, and it was all personal possession. I mean, there was some carpet and a few things that were part of the construction, but the vast majority of it was, buying new mattresses and things like that. So, and now I've upped my homeowner's insurance from whatever $50,000 to $100,000 of internal possessions because of model railroading stuff. So, I'm not sure about the NMRA for that purpose. I think I would want to trust a homeowner's insurance policy, but doggone, you got to be.
Yeah, probably the best thing. Well, let me get over here and unmute myself. Probably the best thing for Sparky to do is call the NMRA on their 1-800 number.
Yeah, because they say, I just went and Googled it a few minutes ago after he asked the question, the initial time, and I was waiting for an opportunity to chime in. Once we died down on the scenery discussions, but I went and Googled it and looked at it too, and I am an NMRA member, so I had a curiosity, and it does say they have a personal collection capability. You can get insurance on your personal collection as a layout builder, collector, etc. But I don't know. That's getting tricky, and that's legal maneuvering.
A fire pit and a small fire. But again, you have to be an MMRA member.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. Which NMRA is not that expensive, so being a member is not a bad idea. I don't put a tremendous amount of faith in them. I don't think they're the answer to, life, life and the whatever, meaning of life and everything, or whatever. They're not the answer to all that. But it doesn't hurt my feelings to drop a few bucks a year on having them.
Well, the thing is if you are a home modeler, if you are a lone wolf, the value becomes much less. If you are the type to get out of the house and to want to be a part of a community of people who are hanging out and stuff like that, which has all kinds of issues along with it too.
Yep.
But if you want to do that, then the NMRA is probably something for you to consider. But it's not for everybody, I'll tell you that right now.
No, that's the reason I wanted to be a member, was to kind of link with people. But I have to say, I went up to a layout recently. Well, the Miles held at a layout tour video recently on the channel for his Tuesday night show, and I talked to those guys that sat around there, and I don't think there was an NMRA member in the group. I don't think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't. They're just, and they were social. They have their own circles or whatever, but. My hope was that the NMRA would be an outlet for me to meet regional modelers. But
well, it is, but you just have to really get involved with them to get worth out of it.
Yeah, you got to put a lot in to get a little back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's probably true, too. And I think, as a technology guy, and as most of us who really like the Hangouts and YouTube experiences, they're so comically outdated and behind that it's rough.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that actually before this started. We were talking about somebody had mentioned an article saying that the NMRA had given up on, to say, my generation. Anybody who's between like 20 and 30 years old, saying that my generation just doesn't get it, and they're putting their money on the generation behind me to be the next reboot of the modeling world. And we were talking about that because I was, if any of you guys know A Modeler's Life, it's one of the podcasts.
Yeah.
One of the podcasts one of the only
Lionel Strang.
But they interviewed me a while back, and that was one of the questions they had for me, was if I thought the NMRA was lagging in terms of their online presence. And I said, well, first of all, NMRA really does nothing for N-scalers, so I'm not a member, so I really can't speak on anything beyond there. But most of the information that I get nowadays, it's all offline. I get the emails, I get the YouTube videos, the e-flyers, all this stuff, the e-magazines, all my stuff comes from offline. And we just sat there and had a good conversation about how dated the NMRA is, and it's all these old guys that are set in their way that, well, we'll send out some postcards and maybe it'll get around, but especially with the new YouTube, where you can make a video and quickly send the link to thousands of people like that and have information spread, as opposed to the old, well, we'll put it in a magazine and see how many people buy it.
So they think the internet is a fad. They do, really. And that was a statement that came out of Comback years and years ago, and I think Comback has wised up. They have wised up. Do they have it all figured out? No. Do they realize they have to figure it out? Oh, absolutely, without question. They know that they have to figure it out. Just like a few years ago when Facebook was struggling with mobile. They knew they had to figure that out, and they did. The NMRA, the problem with the NMRA is not that they can't figure it out. It's that they don't know they need to figure it out.
Listen, when television first came out, the old-timers said it was a fad, and they refused to buy television sets and stuck with the radios. And it was the next generation after them that bought televisions and made it what it is today.
Well, the TV is a fad. It's just a fad that lasted, 300 years or something. VR or whatever will replace it. It's just a really long fad. And the problem is the NMRA, Comback, and other people can't survive if they don't adapt to the technology, because magazines and newspapers and dead trees are the game of the past. If you don't do it this way, then the new generation does not want to read on dead tree. I don't want to read on dead tree. If you can't give it to me electronically, I get the NMRA on my iPad, And I love railroad model craftsmen. I love railroad model craftsmen.
I've been reading these magazines every month for the last 2 years. I just let my membership run out, so they're not going to send me any more. And the president of the NMRA talks about one thing one month, contradicts himself the next month, says something else the next month, and he's just on and on and on. But the thing is he keeps on saying, should we cater to younger modelers?
Yeah.
And the thing that I have against that point is that the NMRA seems to have a thing for layouts. And now we're watching Shane sit here work on a model. And I think that the demographic that Shane is a part of is about these cheap little models. Not cheap. It's probably $200 what he's got in his hands, right? But he can spend $200 on something, work on it for a couple of months like a champ, get right down to the nitty-gritty of everything that he wants to do, and it's his hobby, right? And these guys don't seem to get it. In the last magazine I read, he kind of mocked the president, Charlie Getz, kind of said, oh, we're thinking about making it free. Ha, ha, ha. You know, and it's like, you know, if you know anything about the NMRA convention every year,
it was rough this past
you're
week.
never, ever going to get anything for free from these guys. That's a $2,000 trip.
Yeah.
You know?
Expensive.
Yeah.
You know, it's unavailable to the entire market except for a few chosen people. And the NMRA have you know, they've stiffed themselves right out of the market because they are the fad.
And they see one group of modelers, and there's not one group. There's all these guys, and what the thing, and you know, me and Rod had talked about this not long ago. I think the biggest gateway that I think is going to bring so much life back into the hobby is the electronics and automation and animation stuff that so many of the younger guys understand the technology anyway. Taking and building out Arduinos and automating and lighting things is taking the smartphone and computer technology that I also love and getting real-world results out of it, and the craftsmanship.
And that's something that Shane is going to take on like a champ when he becomes 40 or 50 years old, because he's working with this little electronic base that's got a decoder in it, and he's got to rewire these things. He's got to wire in a couple of ditch lights that do this on you and stuff like that.
It's sound effects.
He's making things that these people are trying to teach these old buggers how to do. Sorry for the old people. I have a habit of doing that, man. I'm not cutting you down. I'm cutting down like the fact that people like Shane are shut out of the hobby, and people like me are mocked because, you know, we don't have a base, like we don't have a retirement. We got to go to work during the day, and we've got to, you know, pay for kids' college still. Shane has to think about that stuff coming out someday, you know. But you know, it's something that they don't get because they haven't been there for 40 years.
But the awesome things that some of the younger guys are doing, like Shane recently built this series of F units where he put sound decoders in, like, you better explain that instead of me third party doing it, where he used E unit sound decoders, so he had stereo sound and only put sound decoders in a few units or whatever. This creative way of solving these problems engages the youth in a creative outlet for this technology to actually build and put something in the world. And look at the maker fad. All these guys who just want to build and make and create stuff. What a great outlet our hobby can be for them if the reverence of the hobby, the older people in the hobby, the leadership of the hobby will open their minds to that our hobby will grow. If they don't, they're hurting it every year.
I think that the leadership should have somebody of the leadership should have a youth president
Good. That's a great idea. Somebody that
yeah. Like I had a vlog earlier this year that I said somebody between the ages of 30 and 39, and I'm 40, and that statement would have totally put me out of the thing. I wasn't saying that I should be president. Let's get that straight. But I think that this hobby would stand to benefit from having representation from people who buy these engines, and these models, like not people who are sitting there going over to the judge's house to run trains all night. We don't have layouts like that. Our hobby is very different.
And I'll say two things to that. The biggest reason I got into this hobby, and I still recall the day, is about 3 or so years back, right when Bachmann brought back the DD40X in N-scale with sound in it. One of the club members brought it up, and it's the first time I had ever actually got to experience a locomotive with sound. And I was just floored at the fact that you could get sound in an N-scale locomotive. So once I saw that, that's what drew me into the decoders and the lights. And from there it snowballed into what I have now, this small business of doing the decoders and the lights and whatnot. But that's the other thing, is being young like me, you have to prove yourself, especially these older guys. But that's one
like us, buddy, like us.
That's one of the reasons I started my YouTube channel, was
because
there was a lot of stuff out there that I couldn't find. And I've strayed a little bit from what I originally started out to do, but when I started, I was doing little how-to stuff, and I've got how-to stuff currently in the process to be published. But I just think that model railroading, from when these guys were my age to now, went from so inclusive to so exclusive.
Yeah.
Because for years I've been trying to just find somebody in Kansas City to get a foot in the door. And just after the NSE that came through, the N-scale enthusiast, I'm now working on 4 different layouts in Kansas City that are all operations, and I'm just now starting to meet the guys who have layouts in Kansas City. But it took me 5 years to get to that point.
That's a perception. That's not a fact of the hobby. The exclusivity is a perception. You feel like you're shut out, but you're not actually shut out. And that's the issue. Because there's so much lack of proper communication between the age groups. They would love to be a part of the younger demographic, and we would love to be a part of their demographic. But it's just something that's weird that's keeping us apart.
We need to do more of these shows.
Yeah.
And there's so many of these conceptions or ideas about, like the cost of the hobby. I've refuted that with people a whole lot. Everybody say it is, you can spend all kinds of money on it. However, you can also do a whole lot with very little and get a whole lot of enjoyment out of it. And there's things I bought that were relatively expensive, and there's things that I've spent hours, days, weeks, or whatever working on that cost me next to nothing. And my total layout outlay will not be that high because I've hand-laid my track and various other things, and fast tracks turnouts. You can build quite a bit of a layout and enjoy running trains that aren't that expensive. The locomotives cost some money, but you can spend it slowly over time. But you can get a lot of enjoyment for less money than people give it credit for.
It's the same as these learning kits, though, because I see a lot of people spend a lot of money on low-quality quick kits, and they spend a lot of money on stuff they really don't want. And if you just saved up and you got the good stuff and spent some time with it, as opposed to buying something every month, you bought something every 4 months, it's awesome. And Shane, Jason Strawn of Rapido Trains is 40 years old, the same age as me. And if you look in the upper CVs of those models, in the DCC decoder, you'll get some crazy sound effects out of those engines that like you'd never hear out of Athearn. You like Star Trek sounds, all this crazy stuff is hidden inside. Like the Easter eggs are inside those DCC decoders, and you'd never find that from the generations that precedes us.
Trust me, with the ESU version 4 decoders, I've actually put station announcements in the California Zephyr card. On my channel somewhere. If you go back and look through the install playlist, there's we did an in-scale. One of the presidential boxcars plays "Hail to the Chief" and "Stars and Stripes Forever." You know, it's unlimited.
It's a great hobby. It really is a great hobby. You know, when you have no
really
rules.
Open up and allow to new things. There's a lot of great things that can happen.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I got to say about the older generation, and I say that's about myself. I'm 74 years old, but Shane and I, we ran parallel. I mean, nose to nose. It was even better than a photographic finish. He listened.
Yeah.
And heard the sound from an N-scale locomotive. And I listened and heard the sound from an HO scale. And we got started at the same time acquiring equipment to reproduce that sound. And look at where I am today, and look at how brightly he shines today.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in the shadows, and he just took off like a rocket. And that's what pisses me off about the youth.
You got no fear, right? I think that's more true than we know.
Yeah.
No, but it's not. There's no one. I don't mean to insult anybody for age. I'm just saying there's a doorway between our generations that doesn't need to be there, and the hobby should join us.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be closed up. I mean, open-minded is the only requirement. It's not an age problem. It's an open-mindedness problem. It's the NMRA. It's not an age problem. It's an open-mindedness problem.
I could probably read you that. I could probably read you the editorial from Charlie in that magazine and get some pretty good lines out of it, but it just. It's not a subject I like to give. I'm going to mute.
And I've listened to him being interviewed a few times, on Monorail, some, I can't remember what podcast, if it was on Scotty's podcast or, one of those, they interviewed Charlie Getz, and, I mean, he says some interesting things, but the end result is not that interesting of what's actually happening over there, but.
Andy?
What?
Yes, sir.
Tell you what, we're getting on up there in time. If we got anything else in the Q&A we might want to hit on real quick over on the YouTube side.
Most of the conversation's been back and forth a lot about the insurance slightly. The end result, I'd have to say, Sparky, of course, is first, my condolences on your massive loss of model railroading equipment. I'd sit down and cry about it, and I don't have much of a complete layout, so my feelings, and my layout floats. So, I feel it's be hurt. My personal opinion is I don't know a lot about the NMRA, and I think you'd really have to call and talk to somebody who has more experience with NMRA's results. You're going to have to get some more. You're going to have to get some more educated answers than I think any of us have about the NMRA insurance policy.
But I hope you don't get a yes man.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm sure glad to hear your diligence of making sure you're protecting yourself for your future involvement in the hobby, because I'm sure being on here and in other places and talk to people who lost a lot or got frustrated or whatever, and they threw their hands up and left the hobby or whatever, and come back strong, protect yourself is the right answer. I just personally have the sense that some other insurance is going to be better than the NMRA insurance, but I just don't know who that person would be to give you the educated information, and it don't seem like any of us have the answer as to whether the NMRA insurance is the right answer. I have the sense that it is not a great answer, but
I mean, well, all homeowners insurance you can buy external insurance for property that's above and beyond what they normally cover. Collector's insurance, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so, mine's covered under. One of the guys talked about that in the chat about having a rider that covers that. Mine is covered under contents, but it just has to be listed as part of those contents that you list it and value and all that stuff as part of it. Yeah. And as I got into the hobby, I went and made sure that they knew that I had a hobby of a lot of value, and on there, and then, every year if I have, some brass stuff or something, I think I would add that to my inventory report. You don't have to turn that into the insurance company. You just have to have proof you had it.
Yeah.
Well, I can't speak to everyone's owner's policy, but I know I had a lightning strike once that fried my DCC system, and insurance, my homeowners covered that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that makes sense. They covered 2 TVs for me over lightning, no questions asked. But it just
that was part of it too. A couple TVs.
Yeah, they'll go ahead and cover a claim as long as it's not expensive, regardless of what the claim is.
That's
Now,
probably true.
In order to get the correct coverage, you need to get on a telephone, you need to get a person's name and talk to the home office direct, and then give them an opportunity to sell you an extended policy that will cover what it is you want covered. Now you're covered. Otherwise, you're not. They'll find an exemption. Say, oh, no.
You got to have enough contents. You got to have enough contents to cover it. I upped mine from 40 or 50 to 100,000 to make sure I was well covered. Not just well covered. If I lose all this stuff, I don't just want all the stuff back because I've got years in building it. I want to come out really good on the other side of losing it all because I've got to spend years of my life building it back again, and they won't pay you for your labor. So, and the loss here, like a lot of things, if you stole a laptop of mine, you wouldn't hurt my feelings of the laptop. You could have the laptop. The data would hurt my feelings. That's the same way with the layout. If somebody, losing a couple locomotives would hurt my feelings, and the insurance replacing it would be great, absolutely. You can't replace the number of hours it takes to build a tree. You can't pay me a reasonable rate to build these things. So,
well, what I'm saying is that if you do not give them the opportunity to sell you a policy in addition to what it is that a broker would sell you, then you're not covered. And Spanky found that out himself because he thought he was covered. His broker thought he was covered. And then when they got the claim to go to the insurance company, he wasn't.
I know, his situation is so
heartbreaking.
Yes, oh gosh.
Yeah. Because of a checkbox.
Yeah.
Well, see, the broker doesn't know the ins and outs of the company he does business with.
Yeah, he just wants a commission.
He's just a used car salesman. He's going to sell you what he's got on the lot.
Yeah.
But if you call the company directly and explain it, well, you tell them what you want to buy, and then you explain to them in detail what you want covered, that will give them an opportunity to go ahead and sell you another policy to cover that in addition to whatever you got. And now you're covered.
And talk the right language. These people talk about money, so you can't just call and say, hey, I got some toy trades I'm worried about. That's not going to fly. You got to say, I've got $30 or $40 or $50,000 here invested in valuable collectible items or whatever you want to explain it. But you've got to explain that in terms that make sense to them, and that's, U.S. currency. And, because if they're not going to see, people don't necessarily understand the value in it. So,
well, you also have to read your policy because a lot of times the first thing they do is just say no, and then you read your policy and say, well, yeah, because it's covered in here. And I had that argument for a week with my insurance man until I showed him the policy, and he finally says, well, read between the lines. I got to do what my boss told me. I ended up getting everything I wanted plus more. So sometimes if you just take no for an answer and don't read your policy, they might be pulling one on you.
Right. And even when in your case you were covered, but the boss said that you weren't.
Right.
So your agent told you you weren't. And
correct.
You argued with him until you proved to him that you were right. And then he said to you, that's what my boss told me to say.
Right. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Don't just take no for the first answer. Make sure that they prove it to you or you prove it to them.
Now, a lot of those guys are trained that their de facto answer is to say no, and half the people or more just take that and go on, and they're that much better financially for it. And there's a whole lot of those situations where the moment you argue with them, oh, this is a guy who's going to fight with us, just pay it. So, you got to be willing to stand up and fight for it. But
if you think about it, you say no, that's not covered. But then I prove to them it is. Oh, I'm sorry, we just didn't read the policy, or I thought you had a different policy. That's all they're going to say. But it's so easy for them to get away with it if you don't challenge them.
Yep.
Insurance companies are slimy, low down, scum suckers.
Andy.
Did I say that, man? Oh.
Hey, do you know what I do for a living? It's not selling insurance, by the way.
All right, I think we'll go ahead and call this one for the night. It has definitely been a good conversation. And let me get back over here and unmute myself. So everybody can hear me.
Oh, we can hear you.
Well, yeah, y'all can, but the ones over on YouTube can't hear me. I have to mute my mic or it echoes real bad. So,
and there has been a healthy conversation over on the YouTube side of things. So.
Yeah. What kind of viewers have we had over there too, Andy? I'll let you look that up for me. All I see is the viewers over here on the old site.
Yeah, it's 18 right now. Right this second, 18. It's drifted around some, but seems to have drifted around that number. That's not too bad on the live show for Thursday.
Yeah, and the first time out of the gate.
Right, and that's not counting anybody who's watching it through the Hangout on Air stream too. So.
Yeah, we've viewership. I think most of them it was down over here on this side.
Which YouTube was just an experiment for us, guys. So thanks for struggling with us.
Yeah, really.
So where was it on Facebook?
It's not on Facebook.
Oh, was it? Oh, just YouTube? Okay.
Yeah, just YouTube right now. Give me a chance. I'm getting there.
I thought I heard something.
One step at a time. We've got a way to do that, too, so it can be on both at the same time, live in sync.
All righty, so we'll go ahead and bring this one to an end. First off, I want to say thank you to Shane, Ron, Bob. You came in a little late, but thank you. Mm-hmm. Randy, Jason, Curtis, Chris, Andy. Dave was in here earlier. Appreciate him coming in. Dwight's been in Germany, and he just got back this morning, and he did post that if he woke up, he would try to get in the show. So I guess he's still snoozing because of the jet lag and the 6-hour time difference between them. But I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Tonight was a test run because after September the 12th, the show will be on YouTube. It'll no longer be on Google Plus because Google Plus is dropping Hangouts on air. Tonight was a test run to see how it's going to work out. I do have a few issues on audio that I'm going to have to work with to get rid of the echo, so I don't have to keep muting my mic on the YouTube side. But we're working on it. Andy's been great in helping me try to figure this stuff out and get the software up and running and working right. So I just want to say that be sure to go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com. There you can check for the schedules for the live show, which is third Saturday of each month. We've got one coming up probably 3 weeks from this Saturday, September the 17th. And I haven't asked Bill what the who the guest will be. I guess I better go hound him about that and see who he's got lined up, other than just tell you there's a show. Be sure to check the EMAG. You can also sign up for email notification when the EMAG comes out. That will be coming out around about the 14th of this month. And we also have the Tuesday night presentations, which are 2 Tuesdays each month now. We've got one coming up this coming Tuesday I'll be hosting that show, and it'll be Bill Baronic, the track planner, and it'll be a good show. We also have Miles Held that he's doing track layout tours as he travels around the countryside. And with that, I want to say thank you to everyone that's been in the viewership. Andy's been watching the chat on YouTube, so I don't know exactly who all's been over there. I know Sparky 107 was there. Curtis was there for a while. He came back over this panel. David's been here. And
Scott Dowdy. Scott Dowdy, the Redneck Railroad, Sparky 107, and Bruce. I'm going to destroy this.
Zero.
Say that. Bruce, what? Xerox?
Zero.
Okay. Bruce Zero, and he's been, helpful, and I appreciate everybody on the panel. AJ Klepass, and a lot of people have kind of chimed in to give some opinions to Sparky about his situation, which I know is a struggle, and had some really good, some good options and how to sort that out for him. As good options as what we've come up with here, and everybody's been real supportive there and helping with that, and everybody on the panel, a lot of help in helping us sort out the audio in the early part of the thing. So, good group of guys over there and here.
Yeah, appreciate the help. Appreciate y'all giving us the time to muddle through this, make our mistakes, and get it up and going.
And Muskoka Steve. Yeah, Muskoka Steve helped us sort that audio out, and Art Morgan. There's quite a few people and quite active.
Yeah. This will be a little bit down the road. We are working on it, or Andy's working on it. He's already got a live simultaneous stream to YouTube and Facebook. He's gotten it to start working now, so hopefully right here in the very near future, when we do our shows, they're going to be streamed live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So that'll hopefully get this out to a lot more people then. But we appreciate your help. Appreciate you being patient on our stumbling, trying to get this to work right so we can keep these shows coming. And with that said, I want to say thank you to everybody on the panel. Thank you to everybody in the chat and the Q&A for joining in on the show. Have a good weekend. We'll see you Tuesday night. All the live shows, Saturday and the Tuesday and Thursday night shows I'll mention, is 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern time. So be sure and check your time zone so you'll be able to see the show from start to finish. If you do miss it, it's recorded. Yeah, new battery there, Bob.
Yeah, we got to look.
If you do miss the show, we do have it recorded, and it is on the YouTube channel. We do have playlists set up for each one, Tuesday, Thursday, and the live show. So y'all have a good weekend. We'll see you Tuesday.